It's late at night in Detroit, and Evelyn enters a store where she catches a young boy stealing a candy bar. She immediately scolds him before telling the cashier to call the police. However, Evelyn is just bluffing, and she gets the boy to promise to never steal again before he leaves the store. Suddenly, two men with shotguns enter the store and demand the money from the cashier. Evelyn hides behind a counter while she hears how the robbers take the cash and kill the employee, which makes her gasp. The men hear her and quickly kill her too. Sometime later, Evelyn's adopted sons come to her funeral, which is very crowded because Evelyn was loved by the whole community for all the help she provided. Two cops park outside the house, and Green briefs his partner Fowler on the details about the brothers. They all used to be wards of the state, and Evelyn adopted them after she failed to find them a home. Bobby holds a reputation as a heavyweight, getting kicked out of hockey after multiple offenses. Jack is the youngest and is trying to make it as a musician. Jeremiah became a construction worker with a wife and kids. Angel is a retired Marine and a hustler, but hasn't come to the funeral. Green grew up with the brothers and is on good terms with them, so he comes to the funeral too. He tells them that the police are investigating Evelyn's murder and that they're speaking to a basketball player who witnessed two men running out of the convenience store the night she was shot. Fowler shows indifference to the whole deal, causing Bobby to ask the officers to leave. After the funeral, the three brothers go to their childhood home where they'll be staying. Angel is waiting there, and the others scold him for having missed the funeral. When they come inside, they're overwhelmed by the memories, and it truly hits them that their mother is gone. Bobby ends up breaking down in the bathroom, while Jack cries silently as he fiddles with his guitar. Jeremiah announces that he's going to get a turkey, saying that they should celebrate Thanksgiving anyway. Then Angel leaves to get some air, but Bobby knows the truth and tells him not to go after his old girl because she has a new boyfriend now. Angel promises he won't, but quickly breaks his word. He and Sophie end up being chased by her new man, who shoots at them from his car, so the couple ends up going to the brothers' house. Bobby doesn't like her presence in the house and keeps making fun of Angel for it. Later, the brothers spend Thanksgiving roughhousing and sharing a meal. While they eat, they can't help imagining Evelyn is there with them correcting their manners. After dinner, the brothers go out to play the Turkey Cup, their traditional hockey game. They have lots of fun before going to a bar where they drink in memory of Evelyn. They end up discussing Evelyn's murder and agree that the police won't get far. Jeremiah even says that they should leave the investigation to them. At that moment, the bartender comes over and informs them that he heard the shooting was gang-related. Bobby demands to know more, but Jeremiah becomes irritated and leaves, refusing to get shot up with his brothers. Now, hungry for revenge, Bobby takes Angel and Jack to the car and they arm themselves with some weapons before visiting an old gang hideout where a party is taking place. They crash the place by yelling, "Police!" and firing a few rounds into the air to scatter the attendees. Then they confront the gang leader and cover him in gasoline, while Jack lights a cigarette as a threat to make him talk. The leader swears that he had nothing to do with the shooting, but does say that the basketball-playing witness the cops interviewed was lying because the witness saw the shooters leave at 11, but the basketball court lights go off at 10. Unsure of believing him, Bobby takes the gang leader to the court near the convenience store and confirms that the court lights shut off at 10 p.m. The brothers allow the gang leader to leave as they wonder why the witness would lie. Then they return home and discuss their findings with Jeremiah while Bobby makes fun of Sophie again, which irritates Angel. The next day, the brothers meet with Evelyn's lawyer Robert, and he gives them a box Evelyn left for them. Inside, Jack and Jeremiah find their birth certificates, and Bobby finds an envelope full of money that he splits among himself, Jeremiah, and Angel, leaving Jack with a piece of jewelry. Afterward, Jeremiah takes the brothers to an abandoned parking complex, which is his latest project to refurbish and make some money off of, stating that the money to start the project shouldn't be an issue. They then go to the convenience store where Evelyn was shot and request to view the security camera tape of that night. It's very hard for them to watch, but they push through, and Bobby says that none of what happens makes sense. The shooters have their money, so there's no reason to kill Evelyn. They ask the new owner if he knows who the witness was, and while the man doesn't know the name, he does offer a description and says that he plays basketball at a nearby community center. As they leave for the center, Bobby grows really angry because by now, it's quite clear that their mother had been murdered on purpose. When they arrive at the community center, there's a big basketball game going on. The brothers interrupt the game by walking into the court with their guns out and proceed to describe the witness to everyone, demanding to know where he is. Jack notices a kid nervously leave the auditorium and follows him into the hall where he chases him to the end. Angel appears too and tackles the kid, so after reuniting with their other brothers, they interrogate the guy, who admits that the man they're looking for is his brother, but hesitates to say more. After some threats from Bobby, the boy admits that his brother's name is Damien and tells them where he lives. The brothers go to wait outside Damien's apartment, although eventually Jeremiah has to leave to take his daughters to dance practice. After he leaves, Jack notices a guy that matches Damien's description, and the brothers go after him. When Bobby pulls out his gun, Damien gets scared and runs inside, getting into the elevator before the brothers can grab him. Bobby and Angel run up the stairs while Jack waits to see what floor the elevator stops at, yelling up level 6 when he sees it. Bobby runs quickly to catch up, but Damien gets to his apartment and releases his 2 Rottweilers, which immediately attack Bobby. He fires his gun at them but misses, giving the dogs the chance to bite his arm and leg. Angel uses a fire extinguisher to repel the dogs, and the brothers follow Damien into his apartment, only to discover he's using some rope to escape through the window. As Damien climbs down, Bobby shouts that they only want to talk, but Damien responds by firing his gun. Irritated, Bobby cuts the rope, sending Damien crashing to the ground. The brothers go to check on Damien and find him in great pain with a broken leg. Bobby threatens to leave him there to die unless he gives them information. So Damien admits that he was paid off to lie to the police, but refuses to tell who the shooters were. When Bobby pretends to leave, Damien cracks and gives the identities of the shooters. The trio follows his lead to a bar where Jack points out one of the shooters fitting the description. The shooters notice how they're being watched and get suspicious, so they pull their guns out and fire at the brothers before running out of the bar to escape by driving. The brothers run to Bobby's car and chase them through the streets as it begins to snow. This ends badly for Bobby's car because it keeps slipping on the slick streets and suffering from the shots from the enemies. Fortunately, they still manage to maneuver the car to make it crash against the opposite vehicle, causing it to stop. Bobby and Angel get out of the car and tell Jack to stay behind while they confront the shooters. They immediately pull them out of the wreckage and beat them up before killing them with a few shots. The next morning, Green and Fowler investigate the scene and conclude that the 2 men were murdered with purpose, quickly suspecting the brothers. At the house, Sophie is attempting to bandage Bobby's dog bites when Green and Fowler show up. Bobby quickly puts on a robe to hide his wounds, and Jack answers the door. When Green questions the brothers about their activities, Bobby plays dumb even when Green points out that it's curious that Evelyn's killers turn up dead in an execution style. Green also notices blood trickling from Bobby's arm, but Bobby says that he was just playing hockey. Suddenly, Fowler reveals an evidence bag with a sample of hair they claim is Bobby's, but Bobby laughs as he says that it's the oldest trick in the book. Angel makes fun of Fowler and almost triggers a fight, but Fowler warns the brothers to tread lightly before he and Green leave. Later, Bobby and Jack go to have a closer look at Damien's apartment while at the house. Angel and Sophie get frisky on top of the washing machine. They're suddenly interrupted by a knock at the door, and Angel answers it to find an insurance agent delivering news regarding a claim that Jeremiah is to collect. It turns out that Jeremiah is actually bankrupt and is receiving $400,000 from Evelyn's death. At Damien's apartment, Bobby and Jack discover a bunch of guns beneath the mattress that they collect in a bag. They also take a digital camera. They return home, and Bobby unloads the guns, wondering how Damien could have gotten them, while Jack looks through the camera. He's shocked to discover that the shooters had been following Evelyn, and when the other brothers come by, Angel gets suspicious of Jeremiah. Then they find a picture of Evelyn with Robert on the day she died, and since Robert had said he only met Evelyn once, they decide to investigate him next. Meanwhile, at a fancy restaurant, there's a gang having a meal. Suddenly, their leader, Victor Sweet, arrives looking furious and scolds his men for not hiring out-of-town shooters like he asked. Now the in-town shooters are dead, and the cops are investigating everything. Evan keeps on eating while his boss is talking, and this angers Victor. So he throws the food on the floor and makes Evan and his wife eat like dogs. Later in the evening, the brothers break into Robert's home to search for clues, and they discover that the Daily Planner indicates he met up with Evelyn many times. Suddenly, Sophie shows up at the house and honks her car horn, shouting that a robbery is happening. Bobby yells at Angel to control Sophie, but at that moment, Robert shows up. A furious Bobby pushes him into the snow, demanding to know why he lied. Robert admits that he had been dating Evelyn, and they wanted to keep their relationship a secret, causing Bobby to apologize and the brothers to leave. The next day, Angel follows Jeremiah around town and watches as he goes into a bank with his check for $400,000. He looks deeper into Jeremiah's financial troubles and discovers that Councilman Douglas was responsible for closing down Jeremiah's project. Later, Angel tells his siblings about this, and Jack decides to follow the councilman while Angel continues to follow Jeremiah. Eventually, Bobby and Jack approach Douglas in a parking garage, but Douglas refuses to talk to them. When he enters his car, he finds that the seats are drenched in gas, and Bobby pours even more gasoline over the vehicle. Jack lights his cigarette and asks why Jeremiah's business was shut down, so Douglas tells them about Victor. Afterward, Bobby and Jack meet Angel in a bowling alley to share what they've discovered so far. It turns out Victor started out small a few years back, but now pretty much runs Detroit, meaning he has connections everywhere like the Congress and the police department. Then they go deeper in the alley and find Evan accepting a yellow envelope from Jeremiah. When Jeremiah leaves, the brothers approach him and ask about the envelope. Later in the car, Bobby is crying because the envelope had contained money, proving Jeremiah to be a traitor. Angel manages to stop Bobby from acting out while he calls Jeremiah at home, and they agree to meet the next day. Meanwhile, Douglas goes to see Victor, who is having a party at his house. He informs him that the brothers approached him earlier, and when Victor asks if Douglas gave his name, Douglas denies it. However, Victor sees past the lie and sends Douglas to the kiddie table before asking for a gun. At the police station, Green is checking the surveillance tapes from the station because Robert mentioned something about a police report that Green didn't know of. This is confirmed when he sees that Evelyn stopped by the precinct before she died. But it's surprising to see Fowler talking to her for an hour because he never mentioned it to Green during the investigation. The next day, Jeremiah comes to the house, and Bobby pushes him to the floor as they tell him they know it's Jeremiah's fault. Evelyn is dead. Jeremiah denies everything and explains the money he received was left by Evelyn for his daughters. Then he starts fighting back and punches Angel, yelling at everyone for abandoning home and leaving him to pay for their mother's bills. Jeremiah wanted to stay legitimate in his business and turned Victor down when he offered to be a partner. But then Victor pulled strings and made it impossible for Jeremiah to get financial aid. Evelyn tried to help him, and he thinks that's why she was killed. Suddenly, the doorbell rings, and Jack opens the door to see someone walk away, flipping him the finger and insulting his mother before throwing a snowball at him. Jack chases after the guy, who turns around and reveals a creepy mask before shooting Jack in the chest. As Jack collapses, Bobby shows up with a shotgun and fires back. At that moment, a van stops by, and more hooded men come out with weapons, triggering a gunfight. Lots of shots are exchanged, and the house gets a lot of damage as Bobby is forced back inside. Jack gets hit by more bullets and crawls to a telephone pole while screaming his brother's name. Angel and Bobby use the weapons from Damien's apartment to return better fire, resulting in the deaths of a bunch of enemies. Jeremiah retreats to the kitchen as another attacker enters from the back door and stabs him to death. But when he realizes in horror what he did, he drops the knife and leaves. While Jack continues to cry out outside, Angel runs upstairs to get a better angle, and at that moment, the men run out of ammo. Bobby uses this chance to throw a brick at one of the men before tackling him, and Angel comes downstairs again as the driver of the van goes into reverse toward Bobby. Right before he can hit him, Jeremiah suddenly rams the van with his own car. Then the brothers run to check on Jack, who begins to choke on blood and dies. Bobby takes his gun and opens the van to threaten the driver as he demands to know if they came under Victor's orders. The driver nods, and at first, Bobby lowers his gun. So when the driver thinks he's safe, Bobby kills him. Soon the police arrive and Green talks to the brothers, telling them about a dirty cop in his department. When Angle asks if it's Fowler, Green doesn't answer, but he promises that no charges will be filed against them since they acted in self-defense. Afterward, Green goes to a local bar where Fowler is playing pool and confronts him about Evelyn's visit to the station, but Fowler simply says that he didn't think it was important. Then Fowler hands Green a pool cue to take a shot, but Green takes a swing and knocks Fowler's legs out, telling him he can't stand dirty cops before removing his gun and badge. Green exits the bar, and Fowler follows him, taking out a hidden gun and shooting Green multiple times until he's dead. Next, Fowler wipes down the gun and tosses it into the alley before taking Green's own gun. He places a call on the car radio for police backup and fires random shots into the air to simulate a gunfight. Sometime later, Green and Jack are buried and the brothers return home, unsure of what to do next. Now they know all the details to put the story together. Evelyn went to the station to file a report against Victor for complicating Jeremiah's business. Since Fowler works with Victor, he took over her case and got rid of the file before alerting Victor, who ordered Evelyn's death. Bobby wants to kill Fowler, but Angel disagrees, saying that killing a cop would bring lots of trouble and they already have enough with Victor wanting them dead. Luckily, Jeremiah comes up with a plan. After sending his family away for a few days, Jeremiah goes to see Evan and offers to pay $400,000 to Victor to remove the hit on their heads. Then Jeremiah returns home to tell his brothers that Victor took the hook and they'll meet that afternoon, so Bobby will be following them, while Angel keeps Fowler busy. Moments later, Angel goes to Fowler's house, He finds a kid playing nearby and sends him to Fowler's under the pretense of selling candy bars. So when Fowler is distracted at the door, Angel sneaks through the back and takes Fowler by surprise. After putting a plastic bag over Fowler's head and wrapping it with a belt, Angel calls Bobby to give him the OK signal. At that moment, Fowler manages to break the bag before suffocating, but Angel holds him at gunpoint. At the police station, Sophie arrives to confess that Angel was talking about killing a cop, which causes a squad to go to Fowler's house and surround the place. Fowler hears the sirens and tells Angel that he's finished, but Angel disagrees, saying that he knows Fowler killed Green. Fowler admits it's true, but also points out that nobody would believe any of the brothers over him, making Angel reveal that he has a hidden wire sending their entire conversation to the cops outside. This isn't true, but Fowler takes the bait and reacts desperately by grabbing Angel and bringing him outside as his hostage. The cops are confused by this, and when Fowler suddenly opens fire, the officers fire back and kill him. Meanwhile, Jeremiah rides with Evan to the meeting spot in the middle of a frozen lake, where Victor's men are using chainsaws to cut large holes in the ice. When Victor finally arrives too, Jeremiah gives him the money and reminds Victor of the agreement. Victor doesn't intend to keep his part of the deal, so Jeremiah reveals that the money is actually to pay off Victor's henchmen. Feeling insulted, Victor asks Evan for a gun, but Evan refuses, reminding Victor of how he mistreated them. When Victor brings up Fowler as backup, Jeremiah says that he won't be coming, so Victor faces off his men, asking them who will take him down. At that moment, Bobby shows up and begins to fight Victor, while the others encourage them. After exchanging a bunch of blows, Bobby gets the upper hand and hits Victor under his chin, knocking him out. Then the henchmen toss Victor's body into the freezing water as Jeremiah and Bobby leave. Sometime later, the three brothers are interrogated by the cops, but since they don't answer questions and instead offer sass, the cops beat them up until they have no choice but to release them. By Christmas time, the brothers are working hard to fix their childhood home. When some kids ask if Evelyn is coming back, Bobby says no. However, he sees Evelyn sitting on the front steps and tells her he's actually considering staying around now. Then he joins his family inside. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you can watch more videos like this. Thanks for watching.